Linda sat in interview room 2, hands folded neatly in her lap, the same foil-thin fragility she'd shown on the cliff. She repeated the same story she'd given the day before: the walk, the photo, the ground giving way, the panic. Not a single hesitation, word for word. It was too clean, too rehearsed. Hooper watched her from across the table, arms folded, jaw tight. Something in the rhythm of her answers bothered him. Not the content, but the precision. Like she'd practiced it. Like she'd had time to shape it. Hooper thanked her for coming in and led her out of the interview room. "I may need to speak to you again," Hooper said. His voice was calm but stern. Linda gave a pencil-thin smile. "Of course, you know where to find me." Back in his office, Hooper started digging. He typed in her name and date of birth. Linda Turner. Nothing. He tried again. Linda Hartley? The screen populated instantly. Hooper exhaled through his nose. Not surprise, not satisfaction, but confirmation. Ohio Correctional Facility for Women. Offense: financial fraud. Sentence: 8 years, served 6. Release date: 14 months ago. Parole: completed without incident. He leaned back, rubbing a thumb along the edge of his jaw. Financial fraud wasn't the kind of charge you stumbled into. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't heat of the moment. It was deliberate, planned, calculated, just like her reactions on the cliff. Hooper clicked deeper into the file. Behavioral reports: spotless. Conflict incidents: none. Psych evaluations: cooperative, compliant, highly adaptive. That word stuck with him. Adaptive. He opened her employment history next. Sparse. A few short-term jobs. Gaps. Nothing that lasted more than a few months. Nothing that suggested roots. Then he checked her financials. Joint bank account opened with Kevin Turner 6 months ago. Savings: $18,000. Kevin's life insurance beneficiary updated 3 months ago. Policy amount: $500,000. Hooper let out a slow breath. There it was, not proof, but a shape, a pattern. He pulled up Kevin's file next. Clean, predictable, ordinary. A man who loved his family, worked steady hours, paid his bills, and didn't take risks. The kind of man who wouldn't see someone like Linda coming. Hooper closed the financials and opened the parole notes again. One line stood out. Subject demonstrates strong ability to present as emotionally stable and socially appropriate. He read it twice. Emotionally stable, socially appropriate, perfectly controlled, exactly what he'd seen on the cliff. Hooper sat forward, elbows on the desk, eyes narrowing as the pieces began to align. This wasn't just a background check. This was motive. This was opportunity. This was a woman who had reinvented herself with precision. And Kevin Turner had walked straight into the version of her she wanted him to see. Hooper reached for his notebook, flipping to a fresh page. He wrote one line at the top. Linda Turner, find the pattern. He tapped the pen against the paper again, slower this time. Next step was clear. He needed to talk to her again. The sympathy was gone. He saw her not as a grieving widow, but as a suspect. The coroner's lab smelled of disinfectant. Cold stainless steel surfaces waited in silence. Hooper signed for the preliminary report, thanked the technician, and carried the thin folder back to his desk. He didn't sit. He read it standing, one hand on the back of his chair. Cause of death: blunt force trauma from a fall. Secondary injuries: multiple fractures, internal bleeding, catastrophic cranial impact. Nothing unexpected there. The next section, however, was enlightening. Hooper read on. Notable findings: no defensive wounds, no grabbing at rock or vegetation, no soil or grit under the fingernails, no tearing on the clothing, no abrasions from sliding or tumbling. Impact pattern indicates a clean drop, not a slip, not a scramble. No attempt anyone could prove to reach him. No disturbed soil at the supposed slip site. No grit under his nails, suggesting he'd done nothing to attempt to stop his fall. Hooper exhaled slowly. A clean drop, no slippage, not a stumble, not a slide, not a last-second reach, just over. He turned to the final page. The coroner had cross-referenced the injuries with the smartwatch data. Estimated time of death, 11:26 a.m. The same moment Kevin's smartwatch stopped. Hooper paused to collect his thoughts. 11:26 a.m., the fall. Linda's 911 call came in at 12:04 p.m. A tightness pulled at Hooper's chest. Hooper closed the folder. Things weren't adding up. The timestamps, the clean boots, the undisturbed soil, the insurance, and now this. The shape wasn't a shape anymore. It was a line pointing straight at Linda Turner. It was time to interview Linda again. Time to overlay Hooper's findings with Linda's corroboration. Time for the truth to finally be revealed.